Today we're joined by a really experienced group of security leaders and talent professionals from both Twilio and CodeRed. Today we'll be discussing how each of these panelists goes about hiring and retaining top security talent. In this session today, we'll be asking a number of questions around each person's hiring philosophies and how to hire well, hiring tips for new managers, recruiting, the process, and how do we go about finding and retaining top talent, building a culture to retain this talent, and then we'll open some questions out to the end to the audience that may have specific questions for people individually or generally around kind of the continued theme of hiring and retaining talent. So probably is a good place to start. Let's do some intros from that panel today. Maybe kick it off with you, Dan.
Yeah, hi, I'm Dan Smith. I'm head of security engineering at Twilio. I guess brief overview of my career is I've done a little bit of everything on like the business side and the technical engineering side. Most recently been building out teams and programs at OfferUp, Lyft, Airbnb, and now Twilio. Heavily focused on the technical security side of things, which lines up nicely with my role. So,
thanks, Dan. Grady.
Absolutely. Thank you, Tom. So hi, everyone. I'm Grady Lancaster. I'm a talent partner at Twilio, specifically specialize in technical and business recruiting. More recently, over the last 3 years, I've been at Twilio specializing in security recruitment.
Awesome. Thanks, Grady. Neha.
Yeah, so hello, my name is Neha and I manage the product security team at Twilio here. I've been in this field for about 10 years now, mostly product security. In the past, I worked with companies like Salesforce and Workday. And Twilio, my team is responsible for developing and maintaining security tools, technologies, and processes to help engineering teams build out secure products.
Great. Thank you. Very pleased to have Team Twilio here representing. And then we have Erin Barry from CodeRed. Erin, do you want to give a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. Hey, I'm Erin. I have been recruiting tech for over 7 years now, just security for over 4 years. Head of perm talent at CodeRed Partners, and I've worked with several startups as well as large companies build and scale security teams.
Awesome. Well, thank you. As I said, a really stellar panel for us today. I'll be moderating today. I'm Tom Alcock. I'm the co-founder of CodeRed Partners, which is a boutique cybersecurity recruitment firm. We've been very fortunate to work with nearly everybody on this panel today. I get to work with Erin daily, but I've known Dan and Grady over the last couple of years through the cybersecurity community. As everybody knows that's joining this call, it's a very small community, and getting to know Neha, which is great. So thank you for being here today, and hopefully kind of the audience will get to have some key takeaways and some learns if they're a new hiring manager and are thinking about how they go about hiring, or if you're an experienced hiring manager that wants to learn from people that can do it really well. I think everybody on this call today will be able to take something from this webinar. So let's jump straight in. There's no particular order. We can go around the house in which people want to answer some of the questions, but just feel free to just give kind of a real and true kind of answer. And maybe we'll start with Dan to start with, and then we'd love to just kind of jump through and hear different people's views and opinions on how they go about these different steps. So Dan, first question I have is, I guess, do you as an individual or as a team have a hiring philosophy that you've been able to develop over the years?
I would say yes and no. This is something where it varies a lot, and like you get the "it depends" answer because it depends on what company you're at and everything. But there are a couple like core truths to it all, and I think one of the biggest key indicators for like hiring that I've seen of like people who succeed versus those who don't is just the level of ownership that people take. So like people who are hungry, people who are humble, people who are, focus their careers on learning and growing have staying power. I mean, InfoSec can be a pretty brutal job. And so if you're not able to focus on learning and growing and, you know, keeping up with the ever-changing threat landscape, you're going to get burned out and people are going to be unhappy. And so looking for that in the hiring process is like one of the like first big flags I look for is like, is this someone who's ready to learn? The other key pieces, you know, comes down to like a little bit of the team composition. So like for me, like diversity is a huge part of it, and I mean like cultural and skill diversity when we're building this, because, you know, if you have a bunch of people with the same background, your team goes into groupthink mode. You know, they start relying on assumptions about what people know or don't know, and so communication starts becoming less clear. And so I think getting a good diverse group of people on the team means when you're going through the hiring process, you need to make sure you're putting extra effort into getting the right people into the pipelines. But overall, like, got to make sure people are ready to learn, make sure they're, you know, part of learning, at least to me, and everyone who works with me knows this is teaching. So especially as you get into the more senior positions, like, you got to be ready to teach people too. So
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Mhm.
I certainly agree with the I don't know, the makeup of a security team, having people from different backgrounds, different experiences that see the world in a different way is some of the best security teams I've seen built. Because if you have the same kind of demographic of hire with every single hire, they see the world in the same way, and that kind of opens up vulnerabilities potentially for kind of hackers and general needs. Grady, would you add anything to that? You've built teams at a number of different companies outside of Twilio, with Twilio. What's your hiring philosophy when bringing in talent?
Yeah, it's a great question. Thank you, Tom. And slightly piggybacking off what Dan said, one thing that I learned early on in recruiting and security, and a mistake that I've made, is technical ability and prior experience is not an indicator for future success. So what I mean by that is the people that I've hired that have been most successful, and most recently at Twilio, there's a number of key areas which we look for. One of them being empathy, one of them, which Dan mentioned, being hunger. And I think the security industry as a whole is built on empathy, trust, and community. So they're very difficult to quantify in an interview process, but the better you get at saying, is this person an empathetic person? Are they a team player? Will they mesh with the current team? Those types of candidates seem to succeed, what I've seen, more than those with the technical ability ticking all the boxes.
Love it. And there's a golden thread of empathy. That's it's a key. That's a key philosophy or kind of characteristic that I definitely view when thinking about talent. Neha, do you have a kind of a different kind of take on kind of Grady and Dan's approach there?
No, I think it's very similar to what Dan and Grady mentioned. Like for me, it's hiring like people who are inquisitive and eager to learn and develop, as Dan said. And it's the hunger, like and the main reason is like in our field, there is no one size fits all solution. Every day we encounter new problems, new vulnerabilities that we haven't seen before, and all the companies have like a unique structure or unique problems, and which is why every company has different requirements. So Grady was talking about the experience, like you just cannot copy and paste solutions from one company to another. You need to get creative. You need to learn and adapt and get creative with your solutions. And I totally believe that like that passion will push you to, you know, be innovative and creative. And by hiring these people, I think we can create an environment that fosters creativity and innovation, which is what will make a successful security hire, I guess.
Erin, would you tag anything extra to what I feel like we covered quite a number of areas there, but do you have a different hiring philosophy when kind of building teams? Like you've got a plethora of different clients, but is there a different approach that you take there?
Yeah, very much of what we talked about, empathy, diverse backgrounds. I think really too, looking for people that are curious, always looking to learn. And then too, for the company, if the candidate's very enthusiastic, just to mirror that back, it goes a long way. when you're interviewing candidates to kind of meet that enthusiasm. It kind of just both have the same goal in mind, but there's just so many different ways you can hire, but just well-rounded backgrounds and taking a chance on different backgrounds, and more junior candidates as well as more senior candidates as well.
I do want to piggyback on that because you reminded me of something. This, the lesson I've learned many times, and sometimes the hard way, is like the right person for a job at one company would not be the right person for the job at a different company. And so getting that honest hiring process where you're being clear about what the pros and cons are and what you need from people and who succeeds at your company and at that moment is really important, because you could have someone who is a superstar, amazing person at insert big tech company here, but they may not be the right person for the job that you have. And so making sure you're like getting on the same wavelength and connecting with people and they're ready for the challenges that you have and they don't mind the negatives of the workplace where you're at, because it's very important.
It's a really fair call out. And like Erin and I will pick up searches with companies that have a security team of maybe 200 people, right? And then in the same month, we'll pick up a seed round company that want to make an early security researcher hire. And they are on paper, they may look very similar, but they are very different kind of characteristics and mindsets as well as experience. So yeah, fair call out there. The only thing that I would add, just in terms of my hiring philosophy, is just that kind of, I don't know, team player who sees kind of things holistically, people that want to contribute to the team, but also to the community. I think that all of us on this call right now contribute to the community and get a lot back from it. I think hiring managers in the last, 4 or 5 years have really started to put a value on individuals, not just on kind of their resume or a previous experience, but kind of, are they driving some level of thought leadership? Are they attending conferences and contributing to GitHub or doing talks? I think that that's something that I've really seen a kind of as a trend or a behavior in the last couple of years, with hiring managers wanting to create that kind of shop window of, this is our team, we're stellar internally, but we also contribute outside of these 4 walls. Good stuff. So next question. What advice would you give to a new hiring manager that is looking to build a security program, maybe from scratch or early kind of stages? And this time, Neha, let's start with you.
Yeah, sure. So if you're a hiring manager who's looking to build a new security program, I'm assuming you're trying to establish a solid foundation for a team, right? So I think the most important thing here is to identify the desired culture for your team. And then hire individuals who are a good fit for their culture. Like, it's important to cultivate a positive team culture where you emphasize on open communication, collaboration, and you create a safe space where people work with each other and not against each other. I really believe that, if one person fails, the entire team fails. And if one person succeeds, the entire team succeeds. So we don't want to hire people who are competing with each other, and we want a team that works together. And it's important to consider that, like, positive team culture within hiring. And also, like this was brought up earlier as well, like hiring a diverse team with diversity of thought and experience, so that you can have like healthy friction within the team where people challenge each other and learn from each other. Like, having technical people is like a no-brainer, but I think these other aspects are also really important when we are trying to build a security program from scratch. This gives you a great opportunity to do the right thing from the beginning.
Great answer. Yeah, I agree with everything you've just said there. Really nice overview. Who wants to jump in kind of next with their thoughts on building out a security program and hints and tips?
I'll jump in here. A couple of things that emphasized from Neha too is like the diversity thing. Is like, poor choice of words, but like super important in the beginning. Obviously, the first person you hire, like, you're going to have the diversity of one person. But as you build that early team out, you need to be very intentional and explicit in trying to get that diverse group. and it's going to be really hard to resist, the temptation or not put in the extra effort to get that diverse group of people as the nucleus, because it's kind of like a flywheel effect of, if you don't have a diverse group to start with, people understand in the beginning, but once you get to 5 or 6 people, if everyone's the same, diverse candidates aren't going to want to join that team anymore. But then I guess I'll go to the flip side of kind of having built out a team from scratch at, when I was at OfferUp, being the first security person there. One of the important lessons I learned in it's kind of the managing up side of it is, you need to, even when before you get hired, or maybe you were just there and evolved into the role, but you need to know what's important up the chain. What does success look like to your manager, to the whatever executives of the company? What is it that they are scared of that you can solve? What is it that you can empower the company with to solve problems for them? And part of that is, if you're a security team that just, shouts about problems, you are not going to get funding to grow the team and keep solving problems, because you're not solving them. You're just pointing at them. And so making sure that when you're getting that first hire, if your, CTO is saying, hey, we have nothing on network defenses, where's our firewall? You probably shouldn't ignore them completely and say, you know what, I'm going to hire a GRC person, because you're not going to solve that problem, the biggest problem that the company sees from a security perspective. So making sure you're balancing that out as you're hiring the early people.
Love that, Dan. It's quite nice. We've had the 2 hiring managers go first on that. I'd love to hear our kind of talent recruitment spin on this. So I guess from the flip side of things, how do we think about kind of educating, influencing new hiring managers that are kind of looking to build out a team? Erin, maybe start with you first.
Yeah. So I would say, first of all, having the interview process clearly outlined, and making it as painless as possible is really going to help. You'll have candidates that might love you and the company and what you're doing, but if there is a take-home test or live coding round or extra steps, of course those things are needed for some roles, but if it's a very drawn out process, people will not have the time or the patience, honestly. So I would say really scrap as much as you can and make it as quick and meaningful as the interview process goes. And then also, candidates really care about, how is security viewed at the company? Is security important to the company? Is really the biggest thing I'll hear is important for candidates. And then, of course, path for promotion and growth. Whether it's leading projects, helping build teams, that growth and influence, scope, all those good buzzwords. That's really, I'd say, where you can be deadly to hire good talent fast.
And I'll go up next, and I'll take over from Dan and Erin here. So there's a couple of points. One on Dan's question, Tom. I think understanding what your roadmap is and what you need compared to what you'd like to see in terms of the candidate. A lot of times I see that we need to hire for a certain engineer, whatever level, whatever role it may be. Well, in actual fact, the roadmap says that we're going in a different direction.
Yeah.
We're really understanding what it is that we need to go against the OKRs set for the next quarter, the next year, or what the roadmap is. And then following up on you, Erin, there's a couple of things that I think are very important. So a lot of companies that we go up against, Code Red being one, have teams of recruiters. or recruiters are embedded in security teams. So with speed and process, specifically for us at Twilio, it's utmost important. When we think of FANG, where they've got security engineering recruitment teams, there's just no way that anyone can keep up with that. If you have a specialized recruiter or a small recruitment team. So making the process as quick as possible and as efficient as possible, but still getting to the points that need to be covered, the areas of focus that need to be interviewed. And then the final is the CDF, having a clear CDF of what success looks like, how we get to the next level, then taking that and using the gap analysis of, hey, these are the areas that we need to focus on to level up our career. These are the ones that we're meeting. This is what we need to work on. I think one thing that I've seen done very well is crystal clear CDFs. There's no question of like, hey, what's it going to take to get to the next level? When I'm going to be promoted is I've met all the deliverables, sorry. So yeah.
I love it. I heard a hiring manager from a pretty prominent tech company the other day working really closely with talent to try and create a KPI around same day offers, which I thought was kind of quite novel, which is people completing the interview process and making a same day offer, which is very easier said than done at certain size of companies because there is a lot of red tape and bureaucracy. But I guess that what you're saying, Grady, is by creating an end-to-end framework, you negate that, and you have you can influence every single step. So I think that's quite smart. I'd like to actually ask Dan and Neha this question because it's, as recruiters, like we've got a secret sauce on how we go about identifying talent. But how do you think about attracting talent and going about it? I know that you both invested in the community and quite technical. So how do you, if you're about to drive a big campaign for some new hires, how do you go about kind of identifying, attracting, and reaching out to folks?
Neha, you want to go first?
Sure, I can go first. I think, Tom, you brought this up a little bit a few minutes back, but I really believe that great work attracts top talent. And if your team is doing exceptional work, ensure that you showcase that in conferences, blogs, podcasts, give back to the community, open source your projects, talk about the work that you're doing and talk about your challenges. And the talented folks out there are watching. And they're watching you do interesting work, and which is what they want to do as well. This will fascinate them. Like this will make them want to come and work with you and solve the problems that you are facing. And at Twilio also, we put a lot of emphasis on public engagement. And a part of the reason that I joined Twilio was because my hiring manager is a brand. Like you need to create a brand for yourself, for your company, for your team. And in the past, if I look at my career history, like most of the people that I worked with were brands themselves. So I would say that just talking about the work that you do is gonna make people come and join that work or a cause.
Love it. That's a really great answer, and probably the same one that I would advise other customers as well.
Yeah, that's why I wanted Neha to talk first. She's got great answers on everything. But like I think exactly what Neha was talking about is like doing that type of recruiting also gets you a good selection filter of people who prioritize learning. Because if you're out there talking about the great work you're doing and the team is doing and putting it out there, the people who become familiar with you and kind of fall into your funnel of recruiting are actively trying to go learn new things and figure out what the best way to do things is. And so it's kind of this like self-reinforcing flywheel where you start attracting people who want to do good work and then want to talk about their good work, and that attracts more people. And that's what I've relied heavily on. I haven't been as great about the getting myself personally out there to do things, but I definitely push all of my people to get out there and talk about what they're doing and celebrate them internally. I have things I need to work on and get better at too, like getting out in the community, but I definitely think the volunteer, get out there, help other people. I mean, I think for me, I have something I do every Thursday, just like I have 30 minutes on my calendar that is blocked off, just called Helpful or Thankful Thursdays, where I try and find at least one thing where I can go do and help people, or remember to say thank you to somebody internally who helped me or did something nice for me. And so that just kind of helps, I think, also like keeps that flywheel of being thankful and helping people get to a better place in their career. So like anyone who's listening can always reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have questions or need advice on anything. Always an open book to help people.
Yeah, that's a lovely overview. And I think you're a little bit modest there. The last couple of times I've seen you in person has been at you representing at community events. So, yeah, thank you for that great answer. So I think we've covered a lot of different topics and how we go about bringing talent, kind of hints and tips we give, how we attract. I guess the last question that I would have to the panel is cybersecurity is a pretty challenging skill set to hire for. I think we'd all agree that, especially hiring kind of top talent. And so we talked about how we go about attracting them. We've now hired them. How do we retain them in kind of the current kind of markets? And I guess my question as a direct one is, what advice would you give to hiring managers in retaining security talent?
I guess I'll jump in here because I feel like the last year has been a very challenging environment for retaining people in some ways. In other ways, less so. I've had ebbs and flows of the hiring market out there. But at the end of the day, my foundation for retaining people is making sure that I manage out people who are low performers, people who are toxic. That whole adage of like, I don't say fire quickly, but like making sure that there is that match on a continuous basis and being very, I don't know, just humble about it, where that person may have been great for what the company needed for the last 3 years, but what we need for the next 3 years is not the same. So helping them move on, helping them find their next role and everything else is a big part of it. But I think a lot of it starts with like, don't keep people around who aren't performing. Help them find something else. Is like top performers hate having to drag the rest of the team along with them. And so that's like where that foundation starts. Then the other part is just making sure you're very clear about what you do own, how you prioritize things, what is okay to let it drop on the floor when because none of us have as much resourcing and budget and people to do all the things we want to do. And that stresses us out because we take a lot of ownership in trying to make sure the company doesn't get hacked. But like, what is it that you can tell people? It's okay to dump this on me. I will make sure that we take care of it. I will make sure that or if something goes wrong, it's on me, not on you. Like, you don't need to stress out about it anymore. And then final one, don't ever promise a promotion. This is one that I've seen play out poorly many times, where a manager will promise somebody a promotion. Managers cannot make that promise because we don't have the authority to unilaterally promote people. In most companies, like some smaller companies, they might, but don't promise a promotion ever. You can think they're ready, but don't tell them it's going to happen guaranteed, because you will set them up for potential disappointment and then they will leave. So
I've got an answer to this one. I'm going to go a slightly different direction to Dan. I think one thing that works is giving people autonomy and flexibility. And what I mean by that is giving the autonomy to go and figure things out, work on projects that may fail, but they iterate, and it's a continuous cycle of, I'm going to do this until it works, but giving them the autonomy to work on projects that may not be pressing today or may not even be part of our OKRs, but giving them that flexibility to iterate, mistake, and then to a point where, hey, this is success, and we roll it out to the whole security org. I think that helps retain a lot of people.
I can add a little bit to that as well. Something that I like doing is like work with your team to identify their career goals. For some folks, it can be work-life balance. For some folks, it can be going up the career ladder through promotions. For some can be interesting work. For some can be, some people are just looking for a change in domain. For example, somebody's trying to move between different teams, or somebody wants to move from being an individual contributor to a management track. So I guess, and for some people, like higher compensation might be the main goal. So I think just identifying that goal is, as a hiring manager or like as a manager, is important, and working with your team to make sure you're working towards that common goal. Do not promise promotions, but at least we can try our level best to set them up for success. And I think people switch companies or jobs to fulfill these unaccomplished goals. So I would say like, and to be honest, for me, even if it means like moving a person to a different team, just to make sure we can retain them within the company and not within the team, I would rather prefer that over losing them to a different company. So I think just being a team, working together with your employee, making sure you're achieving their career goal.
One other like very important thing that has been important for me personally throughout my career is proactively helping people see the growth and get to their growth opportunities, not waiting for the person to complain like, why haven't I been promoted yet? It's like making sure you're proactively showing them where they are on the progression, making sure you're trying to set clear expectations on things. If they're saying, hey, I want to go learn this new technology, don't wait until they're about to leave the company to tell them they can go learn that new technology. And to Grady's point, like that level of autonomy to let people solve important problems is a big one.
Yeah, and I would say really like the number one way to retain your talent is to pay your talent really well, which might be an ugly answer, but
it's a recruiter's answer. Definitely.
Right.
It never hurts.
It never hurts.
Yeah, pay your people well, pay better than your competitors is the easiest way to keep your people from going to your competitors. And then what we brought up as well is like moving people internally. If they feel like their growth is stagnant, they can't learn new things, you'd be surprised how many teams would actually be like a nice segue for a good engineer or like security human to join other teams. And then also like with that culture piece, if you have unlimited PTO, let your people take time off. Really just avoiding burnout in general is how you're going to retain your top talent. And then like growth, that's always the number one thing, but money, culture, PTO, and then like shifting gears, other teams. And then also like interesting. I heard someone bring up interesting. Is the work interesting? Is the product interesting? Are we solving an interesting product? I hear that word the most, I'd say.
And yeah, and are the tools and the technology kind of, are you getting exposure to them? And is that exciting? Yeah. Some really great answers there and some different ones as well. But I think consistently giving people the opportunity to thrive, giving them the platform to be maybe that thought leader, which will then in turn attract future talent, and having some honest conversations. I feel like transparency and candor is something that came out there. Like, yeah, you can't promise promotions, but I can do my best to get you on that journey is what I'm hearing there. So thank you for all kind of your kind of sage advice and wisdom today. I think we've got a really well-rounded panel. We've actually flown through time today, so no time for kind of questions on the back end. But yeah, from the Twilio team, Dan Smith, Grady Lancaster, Neha, Ramdeo, thank you for your time. From Code Reds, Erin, thank you for sharing your kind of hints and tips with the listeners today. We will be sharing this on our social media platforms, and Twilio are actively hiring currently across different skill sets from IC work right up through to leadership. So please feel free to reach out to Grady, Dan, and Neha if there's interest there. But thank you all from me for taking part in today. This has been a really helpful and healthy conversation. So thank you.